This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. Man, we chugging along. Episode 25. 25's a, what is it, silver anniversary? No. Is that 75? I know it's 50, 100, 25. Oh, well, 25 is better than 24. I'll just go in like that. So I'm happy to be at number 25. I hope everyone is doing well. My mama kind of got on me about doing the bad stuff. Don't be wishing bad on people. So I'm not going to wish bad on people. Although some of that stuff was funny. I'm trying to be more PG because if the kids want to listen to the podcast and hear what their trainer has to say, I don't want them picking up a lot of bad language. So I'm going to do a better job with keeping it a little bit more family friendly. So let me get off into things that have been on my mind. Let's start with the NBA playoffs. I bet you didn't see a lot of this stuff coming. I mean, we can start with the East. I bet you didn't see the Heat being up 3-1 on, well, maybe on the Knicks possibly, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't see them being in this position after they ran through Milwaukee. Obviously, with Giannis being out, I think 1 or 2 games, it did hurt them, but that should have been a game. That should have been 7 games. There's no way that they should have gotten finished off in 5. So, thing with Miami is they had one of the poorest shooting seasons from the three-point line, but they're 3-point shooters. So, they had a long season slump, and not a long season because they had some good games, but they weren't able to put everything together until recently, and now they are clicking. So they are a very dangerous team. You also look at the Philly, Boston series, and it's been a good competitive series with Philly winning last night to go up 3-2. Boston's in trouble. Boston still seems to do some of the things that they did last year that put them behind the 8 ball. Not having good time management when it comes to late second decisions. Late play decisions in the shot clock. They make weird mistakes. Harden gets open for a 3. You're down. They're down 2. Ball goes into Joel. At worst, he scores and you get a tie game. But you help off too much to a guy who's shooting threes, who's known to knock down threes, and Harden, and he was already hot. So I don't know what you thought was going to happen, but you have those type of things, and you start to wonder if that's who Boston is. As great and talented as they are, you wonder if that's maybe they're hitting their ceiling, because I think it's going to be extremely difficult for them to come back. I'm not saying that they can't, but down 3-2, Phillies beat them twice in Boston, right? So it's not like, they've only won at home, so or they won 1 there. So, it's going to be interesting to see how game 6 plays out. Now to the West, that Denver-Phoenix series, it kind of seems inevitable. When they made that trade, I didn't see Phoenix being able to sustain and make it deep because they gave away too much. They gave away way too much. And you're asking guys who haven't been major contributors for the whole season to just accelerate their progress like that. Yeah, they're professionals, but everything needs time. You have to develop. I'm not saying chemistry with Booker and KD and them. You have to put those other guys in a position where they're comfortable. The Okogis, the Craigs. You got to be able to use your bench a little bit more. You've had injuries. Unfortunately, I don't say this in a pleasant way, but I've said for the last 5, almost 10 years, the only thing certain in life is death, taxes, and Chris Paul being hurt in the playoffs. And I feel bad to even say that because I'm somebody who's gotten hurt and stuff. So I'm not wishing it, but it's just you can't. I don't want to say you can't depend on him in big moments. It's just you have to be ready to pull back from him and not have him too much because it shows. In game 2, they were cooking and he gets hurt and everything fell apart. So, with Payne getting healthy, he's helping, but you're relying a lot on role players now, which is what they should have done in the beginning because you got some certified bucket getters in Terrence Ross and T.J. Warren, but they got to get in the flow. They haven't been playing. So now all of a sudden they're just going to come out and be instant offense. I understand we're professionals. I mean, they're professionals. They're paid to do that. But it's extremely difficult to just come in. Yeah, you can have it, but it's extremely difficult to come in on a night in and night out and be ready to be right there. You can come in from a moment and catch fire because nobody's expecting it, but over a series, they're going to adjust. So I kind of look to Denver to, would I be surprised if it went 7? No. Would I be surprised if Phoenix won? Absolutely. So then we move on to the Lakers and Warriors, and uncharacteristically, Golden State has had a whole bunch of bonehead decisions, poor play from guys who should be contributing. I picked Golden State at the beginning of the season to win it all because I figured they would integrate the younger guys. Look, I'm not in nobody's locker room, so I can't attest to what's going on. But I really feel like this year was wasted because you put so much invested in Wiseman, and whether he wasn't able to do what you needed him to do, you wasted a whole half season with him. Thing is sometimes here's the thing about coaching. Even with great coaches, they get stubborn. They figure this is our way and it's going to work our way, right? Well, that way worked in 2016. He took everything by storm. Next season, yep, strength in numbers. Yeah, Draymond gets hurt. You had a couple other injuries. LeBron them comes back and beats you. And in 16, you get KD. You have the offense. You have the pieces. KD's not happy because sometimes you have to just throw it in to that person. Houston did a phenomenal job with how they played Golden State with the switches, and it bothered them. Now, Houston wasn't able to make shots when they needed to. Otherwise, we'd be having a different discussion. Then you had the Toronto series where, again, it was injuries, okay? Sometimes you have to look at adapting. When people start catching up, you adapt. They adapted last year by letting Steph kind of be his own. I'm going to get my buckets. I'm going to lead us, and I'm going to do it within the confines of the offense. I'm not saying go into a dribble. But why not let Wiseman get touches, get his shots, acclimate him to the offense to now he's a danger. You don't have perimeter shooting from that 15 foot from your bigs. The Lakers are just sitting back and waiting for people to come over. I heard another podcast. They was talking about how they were playing them, which is true. They're drop down coverage, but the people, the defender that's all over Steph or over Clay or over Poole, those guys are playing really high. So they're trying not to let them get the three off the screen. They're trying to force them to take a dribble or two into that length, and it's disruptive. But when you have guys that can shoot, where they get that ball and it's a little 12 to 15 foot jump shot, now that big has to honor that. So to me, it's simple. Yeah, you're gonna say, oh, but you're not in there. But when I watch the game, it's simple. If Sabonis was knocking his shots down from 15 feet, they win that series. Sabonis did not shoot the way he should have shot. He knocks those shots down, it's over. But you know what? You let some guys that can shoot, then I let Anthony Davis shoot like that because he can knock those shots down. So it changes the way you defend them. So for me, and it is funny, I was thinking, I had someone message me about the game, and I was like, it would be funny if Golden State came back and, they're down 3-1. They came back and won and did to LeBron what he did to them back when he won the championship. That would be funny. It's I guess I don't want to say it's dominant as the Lakers have been. The series just looks like it's, with the exception of one game, the one game where the Lakers, I think it was game 3. With exception of game 3, Golden State should be up 3-1. I mean, that's my opinion. But if, say, if such and such hits this shot. Yeah, well, you look at game 1, there was a shot, and then there was a bonehead play by Draymond and Steph. Okay? They win game 2. Game 3, it was a blowout. They, returned the favor and got a chance to, no, they lost. I'm sorry. They lost both games. Game 3 was a blowout in LA. Game 4, they should have won. I don't know what you're doing in the fourth quarter. My rule is you don't let some guy get hot and just let him shoot. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, if we're going to win, if he's going to beat us, he's going to beat us. I hate that. I hate that thought process. Think about it like this. If you've ever played pickup ball, and you're checking the guy in the pickup game that can't shoot, right? He can't shoot. He could barely dribble. He has this weird form, has no coordination. If it's game point and you're not playing beat by 2, if it's game point and he has the ball, are you letting him shoot? I let it happen to me once. And I said, never again will I let somebody who shouldn't even be on the basketball court, don't even know what a basketball is, get the ball on the last shot, because a lot of times they make it. So I'm not playing that. I'm not playing. If he hits 1 or 2, now I want to make him do something else. We need to do some in-game adjustment, treat him like one of the guys that we were feeling that could shoot. But you let Walker. Gosh, I can't think of his first name. It'll come to me. But for the Lakers, he comes in and drops 14 in the quarter, and that's the difference. But they still had a chance because they run this vaunted offense. Draymond Green they running a hammer play, and instead of him, getting the ball to Steph, he makes his patented move going to the basket. You have Schroeder on you. You can't pass that out. You got way too much time. You score that and one, or you score that bucket. But because you're setting your ways and there's no flexibility, these are the kind of things that happen. So if Golden State loses, I expect some wholesale changes. They're right there still, but they're going to have to make some tough decisions with some of these young guys and bring some other guys in. They got to get a big who can shoot, because as great as Looney and Draymond is, when it gets to the playoffs, the way they used to work, it's getting more difficult. Teams are finding ways. That team has to have personnel. Sacramento couldn't play the same style of defense that the Lakers are because Anthony Davis. Denver is not going to be able to play the same style to a certain extent because the Joker isn't a shot blocker, right? So when you play teams with shot blockers that can do what they do, then it's easier. But you got to be able to match it by, stop being stubborn. So I think all of them need to look themselves in the mirror after this. I'm not counting them out, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. So that's my take on the NBA playoffs. Now, I do have a question. I want to know if companies, any company, think of your favorite grocery store, your favorite eat-out place, your restaurant, hotel, or whatever. If a company does great most of the time, but then they get something wrong or there's an issue, does that mean the company sucks? Does it? Like, I'll use my company for example. I don't ever remember hearing anybody say that we're not a good organization when it comes to training. I don't remember that. Now, will there be an occasional person? Yeah, possibly. But I tell you what, everybody who comes to those doors, when I assess them, I send them a text to ask them how they liked it. And I've never, to this day, had somebody say, oh, we didn't like the training. We liked it. Most of them, oh, it was great, because I want to make sure I show them something. But let's say somebody came in and they just didn't like my style of training. They didn't see any improvement or what have you. Does that mean my company sucks? I'm not saying anybody did that to me. I'm just wondering, because a lot of times you look on, reviews, or you're trying to get information on whatever it is, if it's a grocery store, if you're going to buy a product, and then you read reviews and those reviews are really bad, and then you wonder if that company is good. Like, I go to certain restaurants all the time, but then I'll happen to see somebody else talk real bad about that restaurant, and I'm thinking, I wonder how much it affects that company, Now, I'm big on, I try not to hold the company itself accountable for the personnel that they have in certain situations. What I mean is, if you have an isolated incident, if you're a huge company, you're bound to hire some people that they could be frustrated. They might not like their pay. That it could be other stuff going on. So I always try to sympathize with that. So if you have a bad waitress, or server or something, you kind of try to chalk it off to, that being that situation. But if it's more where it seems to be a little bit, prevalent, then you got to wonder if it's an organizational thing. So I like the Denny's situation. I don't know if any of y'all remember Denny's. A while back, it was really bad with the service of blacks and how blacks weren't served. Now, I always hate to get into the whole, racial stuff, because I'm a very inclusive person. That's just me. I love people. And I have some really dear and close people to me of all races. So I hate to get into that, but it's kind of, it is like that. It was kind of like that. I remember going to Denny's one time, and the vibe was different. And people will say, well, what do you mean? It's just, you go into, you ever walk in a place and it just doesn't feel right? It doesn't feel like you're welcome. I've been into places like that. I've been followed, through stores and all of that stuff. And then I asked myself, well, is that the store company, or is it just this person that has a stereotype that they're just going to go with? So why am I saying all of this? I didn't have any particular issue or occurrence. I'm just putting it out there that, sometimes I think you'll know if a company or business, if the food is good, maybe you just buy it to go. You don't stay there for the bad service. You just, I ain't giving them no damn tip. Like my dad used to say, yeah, here's a tip. Look both ways before you cross the street. It was so stupid, but he said it. It was so funny. But, if that's what it is, take out that bad element, but don't punish that company because of somebody else's service. Write to them. Don't always write to them like you're trying to get something for free. Just write to them and let them know, look, I love your product and this and that, but I wasn't completely satisfied with this. I'm like a top 10%er with Google on reviews. I don't really know how that happened, but I respond to reviews. And if I complain about something, I try to make it to where I'm not just complaining. I always try to say stuff like, maybe this person wasn't having a good day or something. And then I say, hey, come back by. We want to offer you this and that. And it's like, no, just talk to that person. I'm sure that person, I might have been on the long day of the shift, right? They might have been getting ready to get off, and I was the last client, and the person before me was probably an ass, which I know. I know there's people out there that are rude and just, they're really inconsiderate, and I get that. But if I meet 999 people and all 999 of them are assholes, when I meet person number 1,000, I'm going to treat that person number 1,000 like it's the first person. Because it's not that person's fault that the other ones were like that. So I think we should, look into that. Because if you own a business, unless you just have a product that you could put out that you don't have to deal with nobody, you're going to have to deal with customer service. And even if you don't, unless it's some kind of software that they download and it's on them, you don't have to deal with them. My old man makes some of the best, had the best recipe for briskets and ribs. And we talked about starting the business and stuff. And he was like, well, I'll cook the food, but I ain't dealing with no people. Hell no, I ain't dealing with that. And I said, okay, Pops, we could figure it out. And, God rest his soul, we never got a chance to do it. But he didn't want to deal with people. And he has a mentality to where it's like, and I'm thinking to myself like, well, I'm sure glad you don't want to deal with people because I don't want you to deal with people. Although I've always said this is funny thought. I've always said, if you had a sign on the door at your business that said, employees are allowed to whoop customers' asses if their asses are out of line, you probably have a lot more respectable people coming in. If you know that you come in acting crazy and the sign says by law I could whoop your ass in here for acting a fool, yeah, you'll get right. You won't come in. It'll be yes, ma'am, no, sir, coming in there. You won't be coming there acting crazy if you know you're going to get your butt whooped. So I always thought that was funny. But let me move on to my last point. I think tournaments are doing a better job with dealing with parents. I heard over the weekend for some various tournaments throughout the country. I believe there was one in Albuquerque where parents got out of line, so they ejected the parents. And then after the parents were ejected, they wouldn't let them view any more games, and I think they're going to be banned from future events. I think it's brilliant. I think the onus should be, okay, I'm going to put it out there. Onus needs to be on y'all parents. If it's, you got parents on that team that tend to get rowdy, especially if you play in a heated team, they're not going to act right. Hey, maybe you need to sit this one out. Okay, because these leagues and tournaments, they make a lot of money. And they're not going to have their integrity impugned by a few, people who don't know how to act. All right, and it's not in the NBA scouts at these tournaments. I only know one tournament that has NBA scouts on, and they're still not recruiting them. They're just there to watch them. So unless your kid is at the combine for the professional sports, you can't even be there, number one. But that's when you should be a little nervous and just sit back and watch all the hard work you put. Let your child perform. If your child isn't getting the playing time, discuss that afterwards with your child and that coach. And if it's not a good fit, move on. But yelling and getting upset and arguing with other people, all you're doing is making a bad name for yourself. And if you don't think so, when you get in a position where these coaches are looking and they see that, they make notes. There's a story out about somebody who was offered. I can't say much about it. Person was offered, was going to get offered. They looked in, found some stuff with the parents, and it wasn't attractive, and it wasn't just an isolated incident. Yeah, that's not an offer anymore. And with the portal that you got going on, it's bad. They don't have to pick you. Everything shifted. Coaches are going to the portal before they recruit as much. I know so many kids that would have probably already been offered that are still trying to wait and see what's going to happen because they're still in the portal. They're kids in the portal, so they have to wait for them to fill those. You might have kids not getting offered or legitimately signed somewhere in June, July, hell, even August. And that's a lot of stress. So just do what you've been doing. Trust that your kids are doing right. Let those coaches make the decision. If you're that so hell-bent, then start your own team. But I appreciate these tournaments doing better, and I hope more really continue to put their foot down and weed these people out. Because I was told a long time ago, nah, man, that ain't going to work. No, it'll work. You'll just have to start from scratch. Once you don't go to a 5-star restaurant, acting a fool. If they have a dress code at 5-star restaurant, you can't go in there anyway. You got to go in dressed the way it is. So if you start right then and there and put the gauntlet down, this is how it's going to behave, people have a tendency to follow if they want that product. Okay, so let me get into my basketball training ideology. Let me try to keep this quick. First thing I want to go into is a live turnover versus a dead ball turnover. I actually got asked that, and it was a great question. It was a question, well, I mentioned it, and the kid asked me, that gave me a look like live turnover versus dead ball. They didn't understand what I meant. And I was so happy that they had that face, because it was a chance opportunity for me to let them know what it meant. Okay. A turnover is a turnover, right? Yeah, they hurt your team. But one can hurt your team tremendously more than the other. If you pick live turnover, ding, 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 ding. All right, so here's what it is. A dead ball turnover is, let's say you're going to make the pass. I jump the passing lane. You adjust your pass and you throw it out of bounds, right? That's a dead ball, meaning the ref has to get the ball. You inbound. The offense now gets a chance to get back on defense and play D, right? Simple enough. I mean, it happens in the game. But when it's a live turnover, it's usually a deflection or a steal or a block or some other thing. Ball is kept in the play, and now you have an advantage. So, like if you're guarding someone on the top and they turn their back and they leave the ball exposed and you steal the ball, you're going to have an open layup. That's a live ball turnover. That will hurt you faster than a dead ball turnover, because at least on a dead ball turnover, you have a chance to get back and not allow them to now score after you made a turnover. So it could be like a wash. It didn't hurt you. It didn't help you. It's just what it was. Okay. So I explained it to them and they understood, because I guess what was happening, they were turning it over and they were getting benched. And then they were like, well, the other person, sometimes turn it over. And I have to try to tell them sometimes you can't get too much caught up into what the other kids are allowed and not allowed to do. You have to focus more on what you're doing. But when they broke it down, I was like, well, here's more likely, without knowing the holding situation, this is probably why it was happening. You were throwing the ball to the other team and they were stealing it and going down and making layups. So if you did that 3 times, they scored three layups. That's 6 points you gave up. If the other person threw the ball and it went out of bounds 5 times, they get the ball 5 times, but you get to play defense 5 times. So if they don't score, if they shoot 1, they get 1 shot, you get a rebound, it's a wash. So let's say out of those 5 turnovers, they actually scored two shots, right? So they scored 2 shots. Unless they were 3-pointers, there's a plus minus. So I was going to try to go into plus minus, but I didn't really delve into it. But I just tried to keep it as simple as possible to just let them understand the ratio. And he did understand it. And I said, you have to take care of the ball, because if you can't take care of the ball, a coach can't trust you to be in. So when I teach passes and I say sometimes, you know what, it could be stolen, but you want to always put the ball where only your player can catch it, and your player should know how you make that pass. You want to put enough heat on it to where if that person's going to try to jump in, it's going to be a deflection out of bounds. You don't want it to be a nice little steal where they can just kind of softly catch the ball, okay? Because then that turns into a live turnover. So I'll deal with a dead ball turnover, because I'm going to come and try to come back and get the ball back. Live turnovers are really hard because you're scrambling, trying to get in front. You possibly foul, then they get an and one and you get a foul. So it's just a terrible situation. So that's the difference between live turnover and dead ball turnover. And you hear all the analytics about it, and it's a thing. It's always made sense even before they tried to make it analytics, So, but I think it helped him, and I hope it helped somebody out there with that rationale. All right, I don't feel you can be timid and expect to be successful in sports. It sounds kind of cruel, but timid players are players who are, I don't want to say timid players. I want to say players who play timid. Yeah, let me put it like that. Players who play timid, they're not going to be as successful in sports as you want, because there's so many worries that player has. They're so scared about so many things. And when you're in fear of something, you make tremendous mistakes that you wouldn't make. The scenario I always give players and parents when I'm trying to work with them on their offense, because I can work with them on drills, but when it comes to their offense, it's about putting what we did in there in the game. And a lot of times players are scared because they don't know what to do when they get the ball. So they get the ball and they're like, they're shaking with the ball, and then they make a bad pass. So what I have to do is paint a picture as to here's what's going to happen. So the analogy I give is, if you first came into our facility and all the lights were off, and I just said, I want you to run in there as fast as you can, you're going to be scared because you don't know what's in there. There's unknown. So you can't run in if there's no light, if it's completely dark. But if I turn on that light, you see what's there, so you can run. You know that there's a chair there, or there's a D-man there, or a basketball there, so you can move and avoid it. It's just like that running offense. If the defense is in a zone, you show them how the zone works. If they're going to trap, this is where the trap's going to come from. Once that trap comes from there, these are your options. Once you put a picture to where they see it, now they're comfortable. They're not playing scared. They're not playing timid. But we can't just pretend that this is just on lower levels. I see it on all levels. Elementary, obviously, middle school, high school. You see it in college. You see it in pros. There are guys in pro, and you hear NBA guys talk about it all the time. Man, I could tell that boy was scared. He didn't want that ball. You see it. I hate to say it. Giannis played timid in that last game. In game, 5? Yeah, in game 5. When he was shooting bad from the free throw line, they did a jump ball. The ball came to him, and as soon as it came to him, he passed it off without even thinking. That was a sign of fear. That was a sign of intimidation. He was intimidated by that moment because he didn't want to get fouled and have to go to the line and work. Now, does that mean Giannis is a timid player? No. I'm breaking it down to that particular situation. So because he was timid in that situation, it failed to allow them to be successful. And it's crazy because in the finals the year that they won, he took it on to say, I know I'm missing free throws, but I'm going to keep going. That didn't happen there. So maybe the moment got too big for him. Of course you say, oh, no, I was trying to run clock. No. No, I'm not trying to buy that. I'm not trying to buy that. You secure the ball in that situation, and you go up there and you step up and make the free throws. But, I wasn't there with him. I don't know what I don't know what he was thinking, but I think just my eyes are telling me that he didn't want that ball. Right? So you have to make sure that you're more accepting of making mistakes and not being timid, because playing timid, not being timid, playing timid will not help you excel in sports, pretty much in life. You have to be willing to make those mistakes. So that's what I mean. Make those mistakes, learn from them, find a place or some place that can show you how to be successful, and watch that timidness leave. I have tons of kids who were timid in situations, but now they're excelling because we took the time to show them, this is why you're timid, because you don't know A, B, and C. So we're going to show you A, B, and C. Now the parents are like, oh my God, they're scoring. They're confident. You can tell what's going on. So it's a thing. So, if you're going to play sports, you need to try to work on those things. Do parents have too much control over high school playing time because there are boosters. I think it's a thing. And here's why. Since I've been doing this, it's something that I'd never really thought about. You know, and like growing up, when I was playing, I don't think we had booster clubs, you know. We probably did. We could have, but I don't remember my parents being a part of anything, or we're having this sale because we're trying to go out of town and we're trying to do this and that. I don't remember that. But up here, you know, booster clubs are big. And you got parents who, you know, who put money to help the program. The issue starts to become is when that money that they're putting in kind of seems to empower them to have discussions, to talk to the coach. You know, that's when it should stop. I know some parents in the past have donated equipment to the school for stuff, you know, shooting machines, balls, whatever. Hell, I knew of a parent who donated a machine to a school. You know, they have the means to. They were, you know, they're fortunate financially to be able to do it. But guess what it came with? Them being able to go in and take their son or daughter in to get shots up whenever they want. Now, okay, there should, maybe I would say there should be a benefit. Maybe, well, it shouldn't. I understand if there is a benefit. Now, I think if you put ground rules, you know, when such things are about to happen, they know coming in. So they know if, you can buy this machine, but you're not going to be allowed access here whenever you want to do this and this and this. If they buy it, they know it. If you don't put those ground rules, then, hey, if they want to do it and they want to try to make rules as they go, you kind of have to live with it and then add boundaries. But it's to get in the ear of the coaches. And sometimes you see it where, you know that the one kid on the team's parents are boosters, and that kid plays all the time. And that kid's a, good player. But that kid's making mistakes here and there, and that kid's not coming out. And when that kid does come out, there's often a conversation. And that's not how it should be. If you're a part of a booster program, your job is to try to raise money to be able to get that team things, whether it's new uniforms, whether it's new equipment, maybe it's an out-of-town tournament, but you're pretty much like a financial institution. All you're doing is you're going to give the money. And you should be doing it whether your son or daughter plays 1 minute or 32 minutes in a game. That shouldn't matter. But the problem has been, and when I say this, I'm not just saying like, oh, this is just an El Paso thing. No, this is everywhere. This is everywhere because I hear it. It's discussed. Once you have boosters who have money and they put money into these schools, they feel like they're allowed to do things. And it's not just on the high school level. You hear it in college. The reason, I'm going to put it out there, the reason why I will never cheer for the University of Texas in Austin is because there was people on the higher ups and on the board and, boosters who said that when they hired Charlie Strong, for foreign reason, Texas seemed to think that they've been a perennial powerhouse that's won all these national championships. I'm still looking for them. Maybe in the 40s, but nothing since the 80s or 90s. Nothing in this one. They haven't been relevant. So that's kind of how I am with that. But here's what I'm gonna say: if you have this situation where you're putting all this money in, and then you turn around and say Charlie Strong should be a defensive coordinator. Yo, wait a minute, hold on. Where'd that come from? I felt it was a little bit extra with some of the stuff they said, and I've always gotten that vibe. But, I tried to support the team because it's in Texas. I've had teammates that played at Texas. I've liked some of the coaches. I've liked some of the players. But I wasn't feeling that comment. So, therefore, I could never, ever root for that football team. Never. I can never root for them because I know of the underlying things that some of the stuff stands for. And I don't mean that the whole base is bad, but you let these people come out and talk, and they influence with all of this money, and they get to say whatever they want. Yeah, nah, man, you need to sit your butt down somewhere. We don't need your money. We got plenty of boosters that are ready to come in and do what they're supposed to be. So this money thing has just seemed to, you heard Scarface. He's a rapper. Probably my favorite rapper of all time. He has this song called Money and the Power. It's a very bad song. It's about violence and stuff, but it resonated because it really means what it says. If you have money, you have power. And that's what it seems to be with boosters. Some of these, not every booster. Obviously, I'm not talking about everybody. But I'm sure everybody who's listening to this, if you've been in high school sports, if your child has played, you know that one booster that might have, felt like they had a stake in the school, like they get a dividend at the end of the year. They get some money for the money that they're investing in their program. And they feel like they need to say so. So I do think that there needs to be boundaries. I know some schools put strict boundaries on how they deal with parents as well as boosters. Some are a little bit more lax. The ones that are lax, they tend to have these problems. I know this because I've talked to quite a few coaches, and most of them, the ones I talked to, they had this stuff. Nah, we don't have that. We let them know at the beginning, And then others are like, we talk to them, but then they look at it from hey, well, we really want this equipment, or if this parent wants to, push money in, then, it works. So if you're a booster, think of the pressure that you put on your child, because everybody else knows, that some of the things, or they feel, I'm not going to say they know, they feel like some of the amenities you get as a player is not maybe because you've earned it, when it very well can be that. You've earned it. But, you're looking at it from another way, and it doesn't, he don't get taken out because his mom or dad pays all this money. When you don't get taken out because you're the best player on the team. So unintended consequences is what I'll call it. Last thing I'm going to talk about is teams going out of town playing in these quote-unquote elite tournaments, but they're ducking competition. And then when they come back home, either to here in El Paso or to Dallas or Arizona or California or New York or Florida or wherever it is, Oklahoma, wherever, they post like, they won and they're really good. But then when you delve deeper and you talk to some of the tournament directors or people affiliated with the tournaments, the circuits, the EYBL, I got people I can talk to that affiliated, they have, the, how do you say it? They have connections, so they hear about it. Adidas, not Under Armour, but Adidas, EYBL, to name a few, and then regular big tournaments that aren't quote unquote shoe company tournaments. And I'm sorry to put the two mention the shoe companies together. If anybody's out there, I don't want you sending me letters like, don't mention us next to that company. Don't mention us next to that shoe company. they're kind of they're real serious about that. But in any case, like I was saying, you get a sense that these teams, you find out that some of these good teams, they don't play in the top brackets. And then they try to duck other good teams. And that's not what it's about. It's about competition. If you spend all that money out there, you can get in the top bracket. If you're allowed to get in and play against the best of the best, that's what you do. It's not about your record. You go there, and if you get your butt busted, you get your butt busted. And then you come back to the drawing board, and you figure out how to get better. Now, your talent should dictate what level you're playing. So I'll be brief on this. But let's say you go to a tournament where there's a three-tiered brackets, meaning there's a bronze bracket. That's a lower level bracket, high school, meaning you don't have, really, really elite talent. Okay. Then there's the gold bracket. Now, that bracket is better competition, but it's still, you would say if you was to look at beginner, intermediate, that would be like intermediate level talent. You got some good players, but you don't have any elite players either. Then you have the platinum division. The platinum division is going to be your advanced, where you have all the elite level talent, right? So if you're a team that could possibly play in the intermediate, but you're playing in the bronze, so you can win and come back and talk about how you won that tournament, you're not doing your kids justice. You're not doing those parents who paid money justice. Because, yeah, you got the W, but how much better were they? It's good to play against out-of-town competition. You're playing against other kids that you've never seen and stuff. But you didn't get a chance to push yourself and find out how good you are. Then you come back with a false sense of, hey, we're good, this and this. And you don't get any looks because chances are there are no coaches watching that bronze division. You might get the occasional, but they're not there. If it's a certified event, scouts tell me, man, they don't spend as much time as you think actually watching talent. They watch for a little bit and then they spend the rest of their time talking to other coaches about whatever it is. It's a hangout for them. So yeah, if you're gonna catch their eye, you need to catch their eye. But you gotta be in front of them in order to be able to let them notice you. Because if not, it's good to go travel. It's good to go travel. But if you're talking about, you're saying you're an elite program and you're out there and you're not playing against other elite programs that can beat you, that you have to go neck and neck with, and you're blowing them out, you're not doing yourself any good. You're padding your stats. And padding stats in this instance is wrong. So stop ducking those challenges. Get out there. Get out there and play against them good teams. If you get your head beat in, that's fine. Is it the player personnel you have? Is it y'all coaching style? Or was that just a better team? If it was just a better team, you shake the hand at the end of the day, go back to the drawing board. If you played three games in the tournament and you go 2-1 and that one loss was against the best team there, you should feel good about it because you beat the other two. If you go 0-3, yeah, you didn't belong in that division. No. If you get blown out, you go 0-3 and they're all blowouts, then you didn't belong. If you go 0-3 but they were competitive last-second shots, that's what people want to see. I think any tournament director would love to have you back because they see that you compete at a high level and you have a few good players. I was speaking to somebody who said on one of the circuits, and I won't name the circuit, but, in order to be in the top division, you have to have upwards of 2 to 3 Division I players to be able to be on that circuit or that timeline to be invited to the top brackets and stuff, right? And I think that's fair. You don't want to see a team with kids who don't know what they're doing. And unfortunately, El Paso and some of these other small teams and cities don't have a ton of D1 talent on one team. Spread out maybe, but not on one. So yeah, they might have to play at the lower, but don't play at the lower just so you can get your stats up. Oh, we went 4-1 and we came back. Yeah, okay. Well, where did you play? Because if you're not playing in the big places in front of people, you're just playing in out-of-town tournaments, which isn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad. It's only bad if you're trying to get if you're telling people something that you know not to be true. If you're telling them you're an exposure travel team and you're playing in these tournaments and you're basically playing in an exposure tournament, but you're lowballing yourself because you don't want to play against top level competition, and the parents think you're playing up to your competition, you're not an exposure travel team at that point. You're just traveling. You don't want to get beat, right? So get beat. It's really more about getting those kids opportunity to play against good competition. And if you start them out earlier, 8th grade, 9th grade, let them take their lumps. As they develop, as they get better, you'll get invited to some big ones and they'll be able to put you in the big ones and you go and play. I'd rather go out and let my kids play hard and get maybe not massacred. I don't want to get massacred, but I'd rather them lose and get soundly beaten so they understand, look, this is where you need to be. If you're trying to play on the next level, this is what you're going to play against every single game. This is not going to be a one game out of 20 competitions. This is every day. So you better learn how to compete and get better. And I'm going to learn how to get better at helping you get better so we can fix whatever deficiencies you have. So next year we come here and now you looking for that team. We want them on our schedule, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I just think it's, you know, I hear it every summer. I see people post, hey, you know, we got compliments. You know, they're complimenting us on us. And I hate to say it to y'all, they're getting compliments. It's kind of one of those things that where they can't tell you how good, they can't talk about how great you play, so they talk about the fact that you hustle. That's the way I look at it. You know, and I've heard other people say it, coaches and scouts. Well, yeah, what else? You know, hey, y'all played hard and stuff. You know, both teams played hard. They hustled. They competed. You know, oh, we love to hear that. Nah, man, I want to hear that y'all went up there and bust somebody's ass. That's what I want to hear. We were in y'all ass. We beat y'all fair and square or whatever. So these moral victories are going to start to be a little bit less after you become sophomores and juniors. I don't need no moral victories. 8th grade, 9th grade, moral victories are fine because it's first time learning experience. No more moral victories. I don't need to see no team posting, you know, for 4 years straight the same stuff that if you go back on their timeline every year they're posting the same thing. Nah, get up there and win. Play against good competition. All right, I don't mean it's I don't want to say disrespect. I don't mean it's mean. I'm just saying let's continue to raise our level and be upset with the fact that we took L's out of here. That's what I'm saying. Be upset with the fact, yeah, okay, hey, you know what? We played our hearts out. We didn't win, but now we got to get better. You know, I'm not having this shit. We need to get better. My son needs to get better. Our coaching needs to get better. Our teammates need to get better. If everybody gets better, then by the second year, third year, you're not just reaching the Final Four or the Elite Eight of those tournaments. You're not just getting to the championship. You're winning, right? You got to win at some point. So that's all today. This actually took longer than what I thought, but I wanted to give everything its intended time. We have some bonus content coming up for my Patreon people. I'm going to talk briefly about understanding defensive scheme, delve a little bit into it, and I want to know how the bank line works when you go to the bank, whether it's for the personal or business. So tune in. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I'll end it like I always end. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a